Commander Nathan Cross stood in the observation chamber of the Galactic Council Station and watched the stars. 200 years of human history led to this moment. 200 years of trade agreements, scientific breakthroughs, and peace treaties with 11 other alien species. Now all of it meant nothing. The council chamber doors opened behind him. Dr. Lisa Grant walked in, her face hard and angry. She held a data tablet with the final vote count. "Unanimous," she said. "All 12 votes. We are expelled." Nathan did not turn from the window. He already knew what the vote would be. The whispers had been clear for weeks. Humans did not belong in the Galactic Union. Humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too violent. When? Nathan asked. 72 hours, Lisa said. That is how long we have to remove our ships from Union space. After that, we will be considered hostile. Nathan closed his eyes. The weight of 200 years crashed down on him. His ancestors had traveled across the void seeking peace with other worlds. They had shared their knowledge. They had fought alongside council species against pirates and raiders. They had helped settle colonies on dead worlds. They had given everything to earn a place among the stars, and it meant nothing done in the council chamber. Nathan sat at the human delegation table. Lisa sat beside him. 12 other human officers and scientists filled the remaining seats. Around them sat representatives from the other species. The Kethians were reptilian warriors with scales that reflected light like polished metal. The Zorvax were insectoid creatures with multiple arms and compound eyes. The Elthera floated in suspension tanks filled with liquid that kept their energy forms stable. Humans were the only solid-bodied carbon-based species in the Union. Morven, the neutral mediator, stood at the center of the chamber. He was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shift color with his moods. Right now, his skin was a cold shade of gray. The vote has been recorded, Morven said. Humanity is no longer part of the Galactic Union. Zarthel, the Kethian representative, spoke first. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Humans are Deathworlders, Zarthel said. They come from a world of predators and survival. Their biology is still primitive. They think like warriors, not like citizens. This will never change. The Zorvax representative agreed. Humans commit violence too easily. We have seen their histories, wars, conflicts, murder. They cannot be trusted with advanced technologies. It is a matter of time before they turn on us. Nathan watched the votes come in. One by one, each species cast their vote to expel humanity. No debate, no discussion. The decision had been made long ago. This vote was just the official pronouncement. The human fleet will leave Union space, Morven announced. They will remove all human settlements from Council worlds. Any human found in Union territory after 72 hours will be captured or destroyed. This is the final decision of the Galactic Council. Nathan stood up. Lisa grabbed his arm, warning him not to speak. But Nathan had things to say. We came to you as equals, Nathan said. His voice was quiet and steady. We asked for peace. We asked for trade. We asked to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We gave you everything we had, and this is how you repay us. Zarthel leaned forward. You are not equals human. You never were. Your kind belongs on your primitive world, not among the advanced species of the galaxy. We will remember this, Nathan said. He was not angry. He was past anger. He was into something deeper, something darker. We will remember every vote, every word of rejection. And one day, you will understand that you made a mistake. Lisa pulled him back to his seat. The meeting continued for another hour, but Nathan did not listen. He was already planning. He was already thinking about survival. about how to lead his people through the darkness that was coming. When the meeting ended, Nathan and Lisa went back to the observation chamber. The human fleet was already preparing for departure. Cargo ships, colony transports, military vessels. Everything humanity had built in Union space was being packed and loaded. Everything was being abandoned. What do we do? Lisa asked. Her voice had lost its anger. Now it just sounded tired. We survive, Nathan said. We go to the Outer Rim, the unclaimed territories beyond Council space. We build new colonies. We make humanity strong. Stronger than what? Lisa asked. Stronger than the Kethians? Stronger than the Zorvacs? We have no advanced technology. We have no resources. We have ourselves, Nathan said. We have our will to survive. We have our ability to solve problems that other species cannot even imagine solving. That is more valuable than any technology. Lisa looked out at the stars. How long? She asked. Until we are strong enough, Nathan said. Until we are so advanced, so powerful, that they have no choice but to accept us back. Not as beggars seeking permission, but as equals demanding respect. That could take decades, Lisa said. It could take centuries, Nathan said. But we will do it. Because that is what humans do. We adapt. We overcome. We refuse to die. The human fleet undocked from the station. Hundreds of ships moved in formation toward the Outer Rim. Nathan stood in the observation window and watched the Galactic Council station grow smaller. He thought about Zarthel's words. Deathworlders. Primitives. Warriors. Nathan smiled. Zarthel did not understand. Being a Deathworlder was not a weakness. It was the greatest advantage any species could have. The ability to survive in a hostile world created strength, created innovation, created the kind of people who would not give up. No matter what challenges stood in their way. As the human fleet jumped to faster than light speed and disappeared into the darkness of space, Nathan made a promise to himself. One day, the Galactic Council would beg for humanity's help. One day, the species that cast humans out would need them to survive. And on that day, Nathan would remember every vote, every word of rejection, and he would decide whether to save them or let them burn. 15 years passed like a single moment to Commander Nathan Cross. 15 years of hard work. 15 years of sweat and pain and sacrifice. 15 years of building something from nothing. The colony on Kes Prime was the largest human settlement in the Outer Rim. 3 million people lived here now. Farms covered the lowlands. Factories filled the industrial zones. Children played in streets named after Earth cities. This was not life in exile anymore. This was life renewed. Colonel Marcus Webb walked into the command center where Nathan was reviewing supply reports. Marcus looked older now. His hair was gray. His face was weathered by years of sun and wind and responsibility. But his eyes were still sharp. "We found something," Marcus said. "Dig Site 17. Nathan looked up from his reports. "What kind of something?" "The good kind," Marcus said. "Come see." Nathan and Marcus traveled to the excavation site on the edge of the colony. A team of scientists was already working there. Dr. Lisa Grant stood in the center of the dig, staring at something half buried in the ground. "Ancient," Lisa said when she saw Nathan. "Very ancient. Maybe 10,000 years old." The object was made of metal. Smooth metal. Polished metal. Technology of a kind that humans had never developed. But it was not alien. It was built for human hands, human eyes, human minds. Someone was here before, Lisa said. Another human species. Or maybe just humans who left Earth a very long time ago. Young scientist Oliver Park worked beside Lisa. He was brilliant. Only 25 years old, but his mind worked in ways that even Lisa found amazing. Oliver was examining symbols on the metal object. "It is not just decoration," Oliver said. "This is data, information. We need to decode it." It took weeks to figure out the symbols. It took months to understand what they meant. But when Oliver finally cracked the code, the discovery changed everything. The metal object was a database, a storage device containing technical information, blueprints for technologies that were centuries beyond what humans currently had. Weapons designs, ship designs, power systems, medical technology, everything. Why? Nathan asked. "Who would leave this here?" "Does not matter," Lisa said. "What matters is that we have it now." The human fleet began growing. Ships that had been damaged during the exile were rebuilt using the ancient designs. New designs were created by combining human innovation with the ancient technology. Within 2 years, human ships were twice as fast, twice as strong, twice as capable. The colony grew. More people arrived from other human settlements. More families built homes. More children were born. This new generation would never know the Galactic Union. They would never know what it was like to ask for acceptance from species that thought they were inferior. They would only know that they were human, that they were strong. Colonel Marcus Webb created the new military. Soldiers trained harder than soldiers had ever trained before. They learned tactics that other species considered insane. They learned to fight in ways that seemed impossible. Marcus pushed them beyond normal limits because he knew what was coming. He did not know when, but he knew that humanity would need to be ready. One day, a pirate faction attacked the outer colonies. They came in stolen ships, thinking they would find easy targets. They thought humans would be weak, unprepared. They were wrong. Marcus led the defense personally. Human ships moved in patterns that made no sense to the pirate crews. Attacks came from angles that should have been impossible. The human soldiers fought with a kind of fury that made the pirates question if these humans were actually the same species that council records said were primitive and weak. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the pirate fleet was destroyed. 53 human soldiers died. 53 deaths that would be remembered. 53 lives that would not see the future that was being built. But the message was clear. Humans were not weak. Humans could defend themselves. Humans could fight and win against enemies that had more ships and better technology. Nathan attended the memorial service for the fallen soldiers. He stood and spoke about sacrifice, about the price of survival, about how each death meant that the species would grow stronger. Not because death was good. Death was terrible. But because it taught lessons that could not be learned any other way. These soldiers died so that all humanity could live, Nathan said. They died so that our children could be free. They died so that one day we could stand before the Galactic Council and demand respect. That is what their deaths mean. That is how we honor them. Oliver Park continued his research. More ancient databases were discovered. More technology was decoded. Human scientists combined the ancient designs with their own innovations. Faster ships were built. Weapons that had never existed before were created. 15 years of exile had transformed humanity. The weak, rejected species that the Galactic Council had cast out was becoming something entirely different. Something stronger. Something that other species would have to respect. Nathan stood in the command center and looked at the maps of human space. Settlements stretched across the entire outer rim. Hundreds of thousands of people. Dozens of colonies. Fleets of warships that grew stronger every day. "We are ready," Marcus said beside him. "Ready for what?" Nathan asked, though he already knew the answer. "Ready for whatever comes next," Marcus said. ready to take our place in this galaxy, ready to show the Galactic Council that they made a terrible mistake. Nathan nodded. He could feel it too. The momentum, the inevitability of what would come. Humanity had been cast out by the stars. Now the stars were watching them grow, watching them become something that the universe had never seen before. The distress signal came from a Zorvax merchant fleet near the Veil Nebula. The message was broken and filled with static, but the meaning was clear. Something was destroying everything in its path. Something was coming from beyond known space. Commander Nathan Cross listened to the signal in the command center. Lisa Grant stood beside him, her face pale. The scientists were already analyzing the data. Oliver Park was working on the signal pattern, trying to extract more information. "What is it?" Nathan asked. "Not sure," Oliver said. "The Zorvax are not good at describing things. But they mention weapons unlike anything in the Galactic Union. They mention ships that are miles long. They mention something that consumes worlds." The first true image came from a human science vessel that was monitoring the outer boundary. The image showed a fleet. Not a fleet like the Galactic Union had. This was something different, larger, older, more advanced. Ships the size of small moons. Ships moving information like a swarm of insects. Ships that seemed to be made of a dark material that did not reflect light. "There are hundreds," the science officer said. "Maybe thousands. We cannot get an accurate count." Over the next week, more information arrived. More distress signals. More images. More fear. The threat was real. And it was moving toward Council space like a storm dot. The Galactic Council sent an emergency message to the human territories. Not a request. A demand. They needed human help. They needed human ships. They needed human soldiers. They needed humanity. Nathan called a meeting with his war council. Lisa, Marcus, Oliver, and all the commanders of the human fleet gathered in the command center. This was the moment. This was what they had been preparing for. "They cast us out," Marcus said. "Now they want our help." "Yes," Nathan said. "We could ignore them," one of the commanders said. "We could let the outer threat destroy the council. We could be the only species left in the galaxy. We would be supreme." Nathan thought about this. It made sense. The Galactic Council had rejected humanity. They had called humans primitive. They had treated them like criminals. Revenge would be easy. Victory would be even easier. He looked at Lisa. "We are not the Galactic Council," Lisa said. She understood what Nathan was thinking. She always did. "We are not the species that thinks about power and dominance. We are the species that chooses to help even when we have been hurt. That is what makes us different. That is what will make us superior." Nathan made the decision. "We will help," he said. "We will go to the Galactic Council. We will tell them that humanity is prepared to defend them. But there is a price." "What price?" Marcus asked. "Recognition," Nathan said. "Equality. The return of all human territories. The repeal of the exile. If they want humanity to save them, then they must accept us as equals." The Galactic Council had no choice. The outer threat was destroying everything. Council worlds were falling. Billions of alien lives were being lost. The Council would accept any terms if it meant survival. Nathan led the human fleet to the closest Council world under attack. The sight was worse than the images had shown. Entire cities were burning. The outer threat was not taking prisoners. It was not seeking conquest. It was consuming. Everything. The first battle was unlike anything humanity had experienced before. Human ships moved against the enemy fleet. Weapons were fired. Ships were destroyed. And the enemy kept coming. But something happened that the enemy did not expect. Humans did not retreat when they were losing. Humans did not give up when victory seemed impossible. Humans found new tactics, found new ways to attack, found new ways to survive. A human destroyer, the Charles Wright, was surrounded by enemy ships. The captain knew her ship would be destroyed. She knew her crew would die. So she made a choice. She drove her ship directly at the enemy formation. She drove it into the mass of alien vessels. The explosion was massive. The Charles Wright was destroyed, but it took 20 enemy ships with it. The act of sacrifice meant something. It showed the Council species something they had forgotten. It showed them that some things were more important than life itself, that some things were worth dying for. The battle lasted 3 days. The human fleet lost many ships. Many humans died. But the enemy fleet was stopped, pushed back, slowed down. Zarthel, the Kethian representative who had voted for humanity's exile, requested permission to fight alongside human forces. Nathan could have refused. He could have made Zarthel watch the war from the sidelines. He could have used it as revenge. Instead, Nathan accepted him. "Welcome," Nathan said when Zarthel arrived at the human command center. "We are glad to have the Kethians fighting beside us." Zarthel looked confused. He had expected anger. He had expected rejection. Instead, he found only purpose. The war continued. Human ships fought in every sector. Human soldiers died defending alien worlds. And the message was becoming clear to every Council species. Humans were not primitive. Humans were not weak. Humans were the thing that stood between them and extinction. The turning point came when Nathan executed a strategy that no alien mind had considered. He used the environment of a nebula to mask his ship movements. He positioned his fleet in places where the enemy did not think ships could go. He attacked from angles that seemed impossible. The enemy fleet lost more ships in that battle than they had lost in any previous engagement. That was the moment the Galactic Council understood the truth. They had not cast out a primitive species. They had cast out the species that was meant to protect them. They had rejected the ones who would save them, and now those ones were coming back. Colonel Marcus Webb led the elite human combat force against the outer threat. The name of the enemy fleet was still unknown. The origin was still unclear, but their intention was obvious. They wanted to destroy everything. Marcus did not think like other military commanders. He did not follow standard tactics. He did not follow the rules that Council species had developed over thousands of years of warfare. Marcus thought like a human. Marcus thought like a Death Worlder, that the human soldiers under his command were different. They were faster than Kethian warriors, smarter than Zorvak soldiers, more determined than any other species. They had grown up in the Outer Rim. They had survived in harsh places. They had learned to want victory more than they wanted to stay alive. Captain James Mitchell flew the fastest human fighters. He had been flying combat missions since he was 20 years old. Now he was 35, and he had more enemy kills than any other pilot in the Galactic Union, more than the top 10 pilots combined. James did things that seemed impossible. He flew at speeds that should have torn his ship apart. He made maneuvers that his targeting computer said were impossible. He fought with instinct and fury and the kind of determination that only humans possessed. In a single battle near the Void Station, James shot down 47 enemy ships. 47. The previous record for a single mission was 8. The enemy pilots could not understand how a human could be that good. Could not understand how a single person could change the outcome of a battle. But that was the human advantage. Individual humans, when pushed to their limits, could do things that seemed to violate the laws of nature. They could push past pain, push past fear, push past the limits that other species thought were impossible to cross. The war became a series of brilliant human victories. Not because humans had more ships. Not because humans had better technology. But because humans thought differently. Because humans approached problems in ways that alien minds did not consider. Because humans were willing to take risks that seemed insane, but often worked. Marcus led a raid on an enemy supply station deep in enemy territory. By all calculations, the mission should have failed. The human forces should have been destroyed. But Marcus did not send them in the way military strategy said to send them. He sent them in a way that the enemy did not expect. They came in at angles that made no sense. They attacked targets that seemed unimportant. And when the enemy responded, Marcus had already moved his forces to the real objective. The battle was a complete human victory. The supply station was destroyed. Enemy ships were left stranded. And the message was clear. No place was safe from humans. No position was too strong. No strategy was too clever. One human battlecruiser, the Genesis, was protecting a retreat by a council fleet. The Genesis was damaged. Its shields were failing. Its weapons were barely functional. And there were enemy ships moving to intercept the council fleet. The captain of the Genesis knew what had to happen. She ordered her ship to move directly at the enemy formation. She told her crew to prepare for a jump. The Genesis jumped directly into the enemy fleet at faster than light speed. The impact was catastrophic. The ship was completely destroyed. Everyone on board died. 1,000 human soldiers died to save 2 council fleets. 40,000 alien lives were saved because one human captain chose to sacrifice herself and everyone under her command. When the other species heard about this act, something changed. They began to understand. Humans did not fight for power. Humans did not fight for territory. Humans fought to protect others. Humans fought because it was the right thing to do. Zarthil stood beside Nathan in the command center and watched the battle reports come in. One human victory after another. The outer threat was losing. The tide was turning. I voted to expel your people, Zarthil said. I said humans were not worthy of the Galactic Union. You were wrong, Nathan said. He said it simply, not with anger, just with fact. Yes, Zarthil said. I was very wrong. But you are here now, Nathan said, fighting beside us. That means something. That shows growth. That shows that even the Kethians can learn. Zarthil was quiet for a moment. Then he said, what will happen when this war is over? Nathan looked at the battle maps. The outer threat was being pushed back, pushed toward the edge of known space. The victory was close. He could taste it. Everything will change, Nathan said. The Galactic Union will no longer exist. In its place, there will be something new. Something that values all species as equals. Something that understands that strength comes not from dominance, but from cooperation. And humanity? Zarthil asked. Nathan smiled. Humanity will lead. Not because we are the strongest, but because we understand what being strong really means. The final battle came 3 months later. The outer threat had been cornered. They had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Thousands of enemy ships faced millions of coalition ships. Because that is what they were now. Not the Galactic Union, not separate human and alien forces. A coalition. A unity. James Mitchell led the final assault. His starfighter cut through enemy formations like a blade. His cannon fire was precise, deadly, final. When the battle ended, James had shot down 103 enemy ships in a single day, a record that would never be broken. The outer threat was destroyed. The last enemy ship fell. The war was over. Humanity had not just survived exile. Humanity had become the savior of the entire galaxy. The old Galactic Council chamber was torn down. The building that had held 12 species in positions of power and judgment was destroyed completely. In its place, something new was being built. The new council hall was circular. No one species had a head. No one had a position of privilege or power. All 12 species stood as equals, and humanity sat among them as the strongest and wisest. Commander Nathan Cross was elected Supreme Allied Commander of the United Galaxies. The vote was not unanimous. Several species abstained, remembering old grudges and old fears. But the vote was clear. Humanity would lead because humanity had proven worthy of leadership. Nathan stood in the new council hall and accepted the position. He did not smile. This was not a moment for celebration. This was a moment for responsibility. "I accept this position," Nathan said to the assembly. "But I want to be clear about one thing. This is not human rule over other species. This is cooperation. This is unity. This is all of us working together to build something better than what came before." Dr. Lisa Grant was elected Chief Science Officer of the United Galaxies. She led a new research initiative where all species contributed their knowledge and their innovations. Humans worked beside Kethians. Humans worked beside Zorvax. Humans worked beside every species in the galaxy. And together, they created technologies that made all life better. Oliver Park ran the research division that decoded the ancient databases. More technology was discovered. More secrets were revealed. And Oliver realized something important. The ancient databases were not left by humans. They were left by a species that had existed thousands of years in the past. A species that had achieved great things. A species that had been destroyed. A species that had left its knowledge behind so that one day another species might find it and use it wisely. Humans were not the first advanced species in the galaxy, but they were the first to use that knowledge for cooperation instead of conquest. They were the first to see power as a tool for helping others instead of controlling them. Colonel Marcus Webb retired from active duty. He was too old to fight anymore, but he became an advisor to the new council. He taught young officers from all species how humans thought about strategy and tactics. He taught them that sometimes the most powerful thing you could do was choose to help instead of harm. Zarthel also changed. He worked alongside humans to rebuild the Kethian territories. He worked to make sure that no species would ever feel cast out or rejected again. He became a voice for equality and cooperation in the council. 5 years after the end of the war, the first new generation of council soldiers graduated from the United Military Academy. They were from all species. Kethians fought beside humans. Zorvax fought beside Elthera. And all of them had learned from humans that true strength came from the willingness to sacrifice everything for those weaker than yourself. 10 years after the exile ended, the first human Kethian colony was established on a new world. Mixed couples worked the farms together. Mixed teams of soldiers defended the borders. Mixed families lived in neighborhoods where Kethians and humans raised their children side by side. Something that had seemed impossible years ago was now becoming normal. Nathan stood in the observation chamber of the new council station. Lisa stood beside him. They were older now. The weight of leadership had taken its toll. But they had accomplished something that they had never thought possible. "We were cast out," Lisa said. "And it made us strong." "Being cast out was the best thing that could have happened to us," Nathan said. "It forced us to become what we were always meant to be." "And what was that?" Lisa asked. "The protectors of life," Nathan said. "The species that stands between the darkness and everything good. The species that understands that real power is not about dominance. Real power is about the choice to help instead of harm." They watched as human ships and Kethian ships and Zorvax ships moved together through space. They watched as alien children played in parks designed by human engineers. They watched as the galaxy became something new. Something better. The exile had lasted 18 years, but it had changed everything. It had transformed humanity from a rejected species into the leaders of the galactic community. It had proven something that the Galactic Council had never understood: that the most powerful thing in existence was not technology or weapons or dominance. The most powerful thing was the human will to survive, the human ability to adapt, the human capacity to forgive and to build something better from the ashes of what came before. Nathan made a final decision on his last day as Supreme Allied Commander. He created a new law. No species would ever be cast out again. No species would ever be rejected because they seemed too different or too dangerous. Every species had value. Every species deserved respect. Every species had something to teach and something to learn. As Nathan left the council hall for the final time, he thought about the future. Humanity had been cast out by the stars, but the stars had sent them back. And they had returned not as conquerors, but as saviors. Not as superior beings, but as equals who understood the true meaning of strength. The new generation of humans would never know what it was like to be rejected. They would only know that they belonged, that they were valued, that their strength came not from violence, but from their willing choice to stand beside all the other species and build a galaxy where everyone was safe and everyone was free. That was the legacy of the exile. That was the truth that the Galactic Council had finally learned. Humanity did not need to be accepted by other species. Humanity was already superior because humanity chose to use its power to help others. And that made all the difference.